We're going to start with part A and my lights. My lights up top are my marker lights. In the front here, we have reflectors, high beam, low beam, indicators, and four-way flashers. Identify all the lights, one description, proper color, clean and visible, and secured to the truck. Okay? Now, underneath the engine, no leaks. Engine components. Engine coolant reservoir. Cap present, proper level, and no leaks. Alternator is secure, belt driven. Electric lines are secure, not cut, and not frayed. Water pump. Water pump is secure. It is belt driven and no leaks. Okay, two things in general. Dos cosas en general. My belts, no more than 3/4 inch play, not cut and not frayed. Hoses, no cuts, no bubbles, no leaks, secured with a clamp or a fitting. Vamos al otro lado. Okay, this is my engine oil dipstick. It's present, it's not leaking, and when I pull it out, it must be the proper level. This is my air compressor. It is mounted securely, gear driven, and no leaks. All of these hoses on this side, no cuts, no bubbles, no leaks, secured with that fitting or that clamp. Okay, that's engine components. Now, power steering components. This is my power steering reservoir. Cap present, proper level, and no leaks. Gearbox is secure. It's gear driven and no leaks. If you follow this line, which you cannot see, is the power steering pump. Power steering pump should be mounted securely, gear driven, and no leaks. Now, steering linkage, five bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the tie rod is number 5. Okay? My steering linkage is secured with castle nuts and cotter pins, not bent, cracked, or broken. That's my power steering section. Now my suspension section. These are my leaf springs. None of the leaves are missing, none are cracked, and no shifting on the sides. They're secured with 2 U-bolts right here. The U-bolts are not loose, cracked, or broken. This is my shock absorber. It's secured at the bottom and the top. It's not cracked or leaking. In the front and in the back, I have my leaf spring hangers. My leaf spring hangers, no cracks, no breaks, no illegal welds. Okay, now the brake section. This is my brake hose. My brake hose, no cuts, no bubbles, and no leaks. It is secured with 2 fittings. It's secured to this, which is my brake chamber. My brake chamber is secured with a clamp, not cracked or leaking. Out of the chamber comes the push rod. The push rod, when you pull it out, cannot have more than 1 inch of play, not cracked or broken. It is connected to this, which is the slack adjuster. The slack adjuster must be properly greased, not missing any parts, and not cracked. In here is my brake drum. That brake drum, no cracks, no breaks, and no illegal welds. Inside the brake drum, right here, is my brake lining. Brake lining cannot be less than 1/4 inch in wear, and no debris in here, no oil or grease. That's my brake section. Now my wheel, starting with the tire. The front tire, I cannot recap. And on the sides, I'm looking for cuts or bubbles. Tread depth in the front is no less than 432. Inflation is manufacturer's recommendation. I'm going to check it with an air gauge, and I'm going to check it here at the valve stem. Valve stem cap is present, it's not bent or leaking. The tire is mounted onto the rim. The rim, no cracks, breaks, or illegal welds. The rim is secured with lug nuts. All my lug nuts, none of my lug nuts have a rust trail from behind, which indicates that it's loose. And they're not stripped or cracked. This is my hub seal, oil hub seal. Cap is present, proper level, and no leaks. For the manual guys, the hub seal is a grease hub seal. The grease hub seal needs to be secure, not cracked, and properly greased. And that is the end of part A. Turn the phones off. Ready? Okay, now part B. Part B begins at the door and ends at the end of the truck. My door panel is not buckled. I got no cracks, no holes. The latch opens and closes. It's working properly. Over here, guys. Now these are my door hinges. My hinges are not cracked or broken and not missing any of its hardware. My grab handle is not bent, cracked, or broken. And my gasket seals for the door and the window, they're secure. There's no cuts or bubbling. Now, my windows and mirrors are clean and visible, not cracked or broken, and there's no illegal stickers. This is my fuel tank. It is secured with straps. My cap is present, and I have no leaks. This is my frame or chassis. It is secured with cross members. No cracks, no breaks, and no illegal welds. Oh, I forgot something. 1, 2, 3 steps. And this is my catwalk. They're all secure, they're not cracked, and there's no debris. Okay, back in here. This is my drive line or transmission bar, whatever you want to call it. It's not bent, cracked, or broken. It is secured in the front and in the back with universal joints. My universal joints cannot have any play, debris, and must be properly greased. This is my exhaust system. This is part of my exhaust system. My exhaust system begins at the engine and ends here at the tailpipe. The system is secured to the frame and must not be leaking soot inside the cab. Okay, now back here, guys. This is my mud flap. My mud flap has to be secure off the ground and off my tires. Now the tires in the back. In the back I can recap. Again, I'm looking for cuts or bubbles on the sides. Tread depth in the back is no less than 232. My inflation, again, is manufacturer's recommendation. I'm going to check it with an air gauge here at the valve stem. The cap is present, it's not bent, and it's not leaking. In between the tires is my bud spacing. Needs to be even, no gaps in there, and no debris. My tires are mounted onto the rim. The rim, again, no cracks, no breaks, and no illegal welds. The rim is secured with these lug nuts. I have no rust trail indicating it's loose, and they're not cracked or stripped. And this is my axle seal. It's an axle seal because I got the differential here. My axle seal is not cracked, leaking, and not missing any of its nuts and bolts. All right, now we're going to do suspension. Same as the front, except this. That is my torsion bar. My torsion bar cannot be bent, cracked, or broken. Then we've got my leaf springs, just like in the front. They're not cracked, none are missing, and no shifting on the side. They're secured in the middle with the two U-bolts. Those two U-bolts are not loose, cracked, or broken. In the front and in the back, I have my leaf spring hangers. My hangers, no cracks, breaks, or illegal welds. That's my suspension. Now my brakes, which you can't see here, but you're going to see it real good in the back. Same thing. First, let's talk about it. First thing, the air comes through what? The brake hose, right?
Right.
My brake hose, no cuts, bubbles, or leaks, and secured with 2 clamps, or fittings, I'm sorry. It is connected to the brake chamber. But look at that brake chamber. That's a dual brake chamber. That's the big one. My dual brake chamber is secured with 2 clamps, not cracked or leaking. Out of the chamber comes the push rod. To pull that push rod out of a dual brake chamber, in the exam, you gotta release the brakes. Otherwise, you're not pulling the push rod out. So after you release the brakes, you pull it out, no more than 1 inch of play, and not cracked or broken. It is connected to the slack adjuster. The slack adjuster must not be missing any parts, has to be properly greased, and not cracked. Then inside, we've got the brake drum. The brake drum, no cracks, breaks, or illegal welds. And inside the brake drum is my brake lining, which cannot be less than 1/4 inch in wear. And remember, no debris inside. That is the end of the brakes in the back of Part B. And we're going to finish it with the lights. Back here, you got to identify 4 lights. My tail lights, my brake lights, my indicators, and 4-way flashing. Same description. Same description. Proper color, clean and visible, and secured to the truck. That's the end of Part B. Okay, now Part C is the whole trailer. The front of the trailer is called my header board. My header board panels are not buckled. I got no cracks, no holes, not missing any rivets. My lights in the front, you got to identify what you see. That marker light is missing. You got to tell them that. This is my reflector, and this is my DOT tape. That's all I got in the front. So that's all you identify. Clean and visible, proper color, and secured to the trailer. This is my landing gear. My landing gear is secure. My feet are up. It's not missing any nuts and bolts. My handle is not cracked, broken, and needs to be secured to the landing gear. All right, again, the lights in the middle of the trailer. No light on this trailer, but if I did, it would be a marker light. This is my DOT tape, and this is an indicator and a 4-way flasher. Again, there's a proper color, they're clean and visible, and secured to the trailer. So, back here. This is the chassis or the frame of the trailer. It's secured with cross members, no cracks, breaks, or illegal welds. On top of it, I've got my tandem release to move the wheels back and forth. My tandem release is welded, so I'm looking for broken welds. My pin and handles are not bent, cracked, or broken, and the holes should be round like this and not elongated like this. Now we're going to do suspension. These are my leaf springs. None are missing, none are cracked, and no shifting. They're secured with the 2 U-bolts, which are not loose, cracked, or broken. And these are my leaf spring hangers in the front and in the back. They're welded, so we're looking for broken welds, cracks, or breaks. And these are my torsion bars, used to align the trailer. My torsion bars cannot be bent, cracked, or broken. All right, that is suspension. Now we're going to do the brakes again. The air first travels through the hose, the brake hose. No cuts, no bubbles, no leaks, and secured with 2 fittings. The air travels into this, which is the dual brake chamber. It is secured with 2 clamps. It's not cracked, and it's not leaking. That is the push rod that comes out of all brake changes. In order to pull that push rod out, remember in the exam you got to say what? Release the brake. Very good. What button? The red one. So you release the parking brake, pull the push rod out, no more than 1 inch of play, and not cracked or broken. It is connected to the slack adjuster. This slack adjuster needs to be properly greased right here, not missing any parts right here, and not cracked. Then I've got my brake drum. The brake drum, no cracks, no breaks, no illegal welds. And inside the brake drum is my brake lining. If you want to see it, that's it right there. My brake lining cannot be less than a 1/4 inch in wear. And remember, no debris, no oil or grease. All right, that's the end of the brakes. Now we're going to do the wheel again on the trailer. In the back, my tires can be recapped. On the sides, I'm looking for cuts or bubbles. My tread depth in the back is no less than 232. My inflation, again, is manufacturer's recommendation. I'm going to check it with an air gauge here at the valve stem. The valve stem, the cap is present, it's not bent or leaking. In between the tires is my bud spacing. It's got to be even and no gap or debris inside. All right, now my tires are mounted onto the rims. The rims, again, no cracks, no breaks, and no illegal welds. The rims are secured with the lug nuts. The lug nuts must not have any rust trail from behind that indicate it's loose and not cracked or stripped. Again, these are my hub seals, oil hub seals. My oil hub seal, look, the cap's missing here, so you got to report it. This is where the level, you check the level, so it's got to be the proper level, and it's not leaking, okay? All right, mud flaps again. They're secured to the truck, they're off the ground, and they're off my tires. My lights in the back. If I had a light up top, it would be called what?
Marker light.
Marker light. And what's this one? Marker light also. So remember, all the lights across the top and this one with the other side are marker lights. This is my reflector. This is my DOT tape. And there's one trailer there, if you get in the exam, has an amber light here. What is that?
ABS.
ABS. Very good. Okay? After you identify all the lights in this section, same description. They're all the proper color, they're all clean and visible, and they're all secured to the trailer. Okay? Alright, one thing that you're not seeing here for the manual guys. In the truck, on the back, in suspension, the airbags. The airbags are secured at the top and the bottom with mounts. Mounts. It's a piece of metal that looks like an L. And the actual airbag, no cuts, no bubbles, and no leaks. Same description as the hose on the engine. Okay? All right, let's come back here, guys. The trailer door. Again, I'm checking my panels. I got no holes, they're not buckled, cracks, holes, and not missing any rings. This door goes up and down with these wires or cables. They're not cut, they're not frayed, and they're not missing any nuts and bolts. The door has a handle and a latch that are secure. They're not bent, cracked, or broken. And the lights, for the last time, up top are my marker lights. Here I have my DOT stickers or tape or reflectors, and these are my regular reflectors on both sides. And the 4 lights in the back of the trailer are the same as the 4 behind the truck. Tail lights, brake lights, indicators, and 4-way flashers. Same description, guys. They're all the proper color, clean and visible, and secured to the trailer. And that's the end of Part C. Coupling. First, my airlines. My red is my emergency, and my blue is my service. No cuts, no bubbles, and no leaks. My airlines have two connectors. This one is called a fitting, and these are called my glad hands. My connectors cannot be leaking, cracked, or broken. This is my electric cable. It's secure, it's not cut, no black tape, no exposed wires, and nothing must be dragging. Now on the trailer, this big piece of metal from end to end, welded to the bottom of the trailer, is my apron. No cracks, no breaks, no illegal welds, a large piece of metal. That little ball in the middle that's welded to the apron is my kingpin. My kingpin cannot be bent, cracked, or broken. Those are the only two items on the trailer. Now the truck. That is my fifth wheel. My fifth wheel, no cracks, no breaks, no illegal welds, and it is secured with two pins, one here and one on the other side. It is secured to this piece of metal, which is called my platform. My platform, no cracks, breaks, or illegal welds. The platform is secured to the chassis of the truck with mounting bolts. My mounting bolts cannot be loose, cracked, or broken. This is my release arm, and it controls the locking jaw. My release arm and my locking jaw must not be bent, cracked, or broken. So when this arm is in, that locking jaw is wrapped around the kingpin to secure it. And when you pull the handle out, it releases, the locking jaw, releases the kingpin so you can uncouple, okay? And the last thing you gotta say in the exam is that in between the apron and the fifth wheel, you're gonna make sure that it's properly greased and that there's no gap. And that's the end of coupling. In cab, 3 points of contact to get in and out. 1, 2, 3, and backwards to get out, okay? All right, first I'm gonna check my safety equipment. I'm gonna check my seat belt. Make sure it's not cut, it's not frayed. Lock it, unlock it, it's working properly. I'm gonna make sure that I've got one box of triangles with no less than 3. Make sure that I've got a box of fuses with no less than 6. Make sure that my fire extinguisher is secured to the floor. The pin is present, it's not leaking, up-to-date sticker. This is my windshield. My windshield is clean and visible, it's not cracked or broken, and I've got no illegal stickers. And my mirrors need to be adjusted to me. Okay, now, safe start. For the manual guys, especially. First, you grab your parking brakes, pull them out, make sure they're applied. Second, grab your stick and make sure that you're in neutral. Then push the clutch to the floor and hold it. Then open the switch and check your ABS light. ABS turns on and off, it's working properly. You're automatic, aren't you?
Yeah.
So what you do is you would check the parking brakes, you open the switch, and you make sure that you're, check the ABS and make sure that you're in neutral.
You just press N?
Yeah, just make sure that you're there.
Okay.
It's digital.
Okay.
And then just start the engine. I'm going to check my gauges. I'm going to check my oil pressure gauge. All you got to say is the needle should be rising to the proper level. Also, the water temperature gauge. The needle is also rising to the proper level. And the battery voltage which in your case is digital. So you would hit the black button until it comes up on the panel, and you would say that it's also rising to the proper level. Those three, individually. Then we're going to talk about our air tanks, or air gauges. But our air gauges, the proper range is between 120 and 140. And that's my gauges. Now my inside lights. Turn on your main switch. Turn on your high beam. And touch it and tell them that it's working properly. Then turn on your left indicator. Touch it, tell them it's working properly. Your right indicator is also working properly. And then your four-way flashers on both sides are also working properly. All right. Now, also, you're going to check your windshield wipers. You're going to turn them on, tell them that the motor's working properly. The rubber blade, it's not worn, and it's not torn. And the water is not working at all. You got to report what you see. Okay, now I'm going to check my heater and my defrost. First, I'm going to turn the fan on. Then I'm going to put this over to heat, and then I'm going to turn on my defrost. And I have to check it here. Airflow is working. Now I'm going to check the heater. Just take defrost off and put the front vents on. And this is where you got to check your heater. I feel the airflow, it's working properly. All right, what's left are the three brake tests. The first brake test is the service brake test. The second one is the parking brake test. And the third one is the lab test, okay? The first one, the service brake test, has two parts. I'm checking the service brake and the brake adjustment. Two things. All right, now the steps. The very first step is what, guys? Governor cutoff. Thank you. You got to fill the tanks before each test. You accelerate. Don't take it over 15. That's governor cutoff, okay? Now, I'm going to lift my brake, put it in drive, and let it roll forward without dip. I'm going to go roll forward. I'm going to step on the brake. My service brake is working properly. When I stepped on the brake, my steering wheel didn't pull, so I don't need a brake adjustment. First test, two parts. Okay, second test, parking brake test. Two buttons, two parts. First step, what is it?
Trailer brake.
Governor cutoff. You gotta fill the tanks again. Second test. Don't forget governor cutoff. You're gonna accelerate. Governor cutoff. Step number 2, release one brake, either one. I'm going to let go of the truck. My trailer brake is applied. I am going to put it in drive. It rolls. So I will tell the examiner that my trailer parking brake is no good. I'm going to release the trailer brake. And the truck is applied. I'm going to let it go. Doesn't move. So my truck parking brake is working properly. Okay, the last test, lab test. This is critical. You got to pass this, otherwise you will automatically fail the test. Okay? Lab test. First, it has 3 parts. Leak, alarm, and emergency brake. The first one we're going to do is a leak test. Okay? 7 steps. The first step is what? Thank you. Release the brake. You got to open the line. Second is governor cutoff. Not first.
Oh, okay.
You got to do it in this order, otherwise you're going to lose too much air. Okay? Once you release the brake, step number 1. Number 2 is governor cutoff. Accelerate. Okay, let's recap. Step number 1, release brakes. Step number 2 is governor cutoff. Step number 3, engine off. Step number 4, power on. Step number 5 is stabilization. I'm going to step on the brake, the service brake, and hold it. My needles on my air gauges are going to drop and stop. That is stabilization. Stabilization has occurred. Now, number 6, with the pressure still on, I'm listening for a large air leak. I don't hear none. I'm going to check for a small leak, which is number 7. Take my phone, put it right here, and start it for 1 full minute, watching my air gauges. In 1 minute, I cannot lose more than 4 psi. After the minute, I can release and tell them how much I lost. If I lost 4 psi or less, the truck passed. If I lost more than 4 psi, the truck failed. That's the leak part. Second part, alarm. I'm going to pump the service brake, simulating an air loss. My alarm should come on the dash below 60 psi. There it is, working properly. Now, what's left are my emergency brakes. Again, I'm going to keep pumping the service brake until my emergency brakes apply, and they need to apply between 20 and 40 psi. They popped out, in between 20 and 40 psi, it passed the test. And that's the end of the exam.